Chocolate Dip family and friends, welcome to the Blue Dahlia, or the Trapped Egg podcast, the Caged Egg podcast.
Okay.
This is, so I got some I got some exciting news for everyone today. Lauren hasn't even heard this yet. This is exciting, you guys.
Okay.
I want to unveil our first sponsor. So today's podcast. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Okay. Today's podcast is sponsored by Porsche. Yes, that Porsche. Porsche seeks to entertain the masses by offering high-powered performance, speed, momentum, and a car that turns heads. Porsche has been impounding vehicles since 1942.
What?
When Henry Ford, automaker of the American... Sorry, this is a hard ad read. Automaker of the American truck... Did I read that right? Maker of the American truck parked on the wrong side of the street. Porsche's vehicles offer comfort, access, and affordability, with cars starting in the mid $70,000s. Porsche, try the new Porsche Cayenne 911 Red Stripe Edition. The Porsche Cayenne, no stripes, starts at least for $120,000 or $900 a month, or for the Red Stripe Edition, which has 2 red stripes that run across the entire car, leasing starting at $2,000 a month. MSRP $175,000.
So what are we getting from Porsche for you reading this gigantically long ad?
Just part of it's, we get to be us, and here's the kicker: the Chocolate Dip friends. So you guys who are listening, you're now part of the Porsche family.
So we're all part of the Porsche family. That's what we get.
Well, you're saying that's like saying I'm an American citizen. You get to live in America. Oh, that's what I get. No, you get to live in America. Say it slowly. I'm part of the Porsche family. Say it out loud.
I'm part of the Porsche family. Wow.
So I just want you guys to know, none of this would have been possible without you guys' constant listening, encouragement, support, comments, feedback. Just, you guys have been so good to us. I love that I can finally give something back to you guys. Welcome to the Porsche family.
Embracing you into the Porsche family with us, so we can all read ads for Porsche. We don't gain any monetary value. We don't. None of us own Porsches.
Okay. Well, then who's our provider? Is Porsche God? Who's our provider, Lauren? Is it Porsche or is it God?
It's God.
Okay. Welcome to the Porsche family. We have everything we need. We had it before we were in the family.
Okay.
And now we just have a little more.
Right.
Because being a part of the Porsche family, that is something. It's not nothing. So I'm not going to say we had everything we needed.
Now they want a car tax? Hell no.
Find somebody. Listen, if you're single, find someone who can find the right sound on the soundboard. That if you find someone like that, that's who you're supposed to marry.
Oh my God.
Find someone like that. So, do you guys know who Jordan Peterson is?
No, I have no idea who that is.
Well, I'm willing to bet most of you are not like Lauren. But if you are like Lauren, let me catch you.
You mean adrift in Asian culture, so I'm not bothering with anyone who's named Jordan Peterson?
Okay. I guess that's not racism. That's just like preferencing, I guess. Hierarchy of races. Basically, he's a psychologist Canadian,
okay,
became famous for standing up to leftist thinking on issues of gender and so on.
Okay.
And he's a controversial figure. I don't mind him. He certainly helped people. But, in this silly culture war we live in, people just love to choose enemies and we're in hell.
So it's become silly.
We're kind of in hell, I guess. I don't want to undersell hell.
Sure.
But we're in something like it. God's trying to be king of heaven and earth. Satan's definitely trying to be in hell on earth. We definitely are trapped between two worlds, forces of good and evil. I believe he makes
like
content.
Marvel and DC or
What'd you ask? Oh, Marvel and DC, got you. Not quite. Well, not quite, but I like that though. I like that.
Okay.
Well, okay. Heaven and hell. Which one is which? Who's Marvel and who's DC?
I will never disclose how much I'm worth because I've learned a lot.
Who's Marvel and DC in the heaven and hell thing? Who's heaven and who's hell for Marvel? If you're gonna say Marvel versus DC, who would you say is hell and who's heaven? I would say Marvel's heaven for sure.
You would say they're heaven?
Yeah, DC is hell. Easy. That's easy, man. When you got characters like some incarnations of the green finger ring guy,
Green Lantern,
ring pop or whatever.
It's Green Lantern.
Green ring pop. Yeah. Okay. Let me get back on track.
Yeah.
It's Jordan Peterson.
Let's not get on this.
He has a show on the Daily Wire, I believe, which is like a Christian. The Christian Wow is absolutely not Christian.
I was gonna say
absolutely not Christian. It's like a conservative.
It's just political, right?
Yeah, it's like a political commentary.
Okay. Conservative,
network.
Republican.
Yeah. Yes, all of that.
Political commentary.
All of that. He's been on Joe Rogan. So I'm just trying to establish he's very well known.
Sure.
And
okay.
he is admired by Christians because he's been. I believe he has some like lectures on the Bible that he did a long time ago. That was part of the reason he blew up. But the way he looks at the Bible is a little bit strange sometimes.
Okay.
He tends to over mythologize it, but not to try and be fair to him. Maybe not in like a disrespectful sense, but like it'd be like me saying like, if I said like Candyland is true, like the game Candyland, that board game you play with your kids, this is true.
A real place or? Because
bad things randomly happen to you. It feels like that at least, right? Candyland, you just, landed on purple, got to slide back to the first square, right? Sometimes life feels like that. So like in a sense, I guess like, yeah, this is, like get ready. It's like you tell your kids, get ready because this will happen to you. It won't be a slide. It might be like a car accident. Oh, got to relearn how to walk. So you literally get reset to age 1. You know what I mean? Oh.
So struggle more.
I got shot in the stomach. So now I have to wear a diaper. You know what I mean? Oh, I was at the mall at the wrong time. No disrespect to anybody who's been a victim of violence, but yeah, that's you slide back down the slide sometimes when stuff happens to you. Oh, can't have bread anymore because I'm allergic to gluten.
I love how you did all of those and then you threw one of yours in and it was like, wow, yeah. You live such a hard life.
The Sharia law.
Is that disrespectful? So he would look at the Bible like that, like it is real. But sometimes he'll question whether the things actually happen.
Okay.
To the degree that some people have questioned, like, are you even a Christian, bro? So,
okay.
There's YouTubers.
So this is about to get interesting.
He shows up on a lot of Christian YouTube content, like whenever he's very much somewhat beloved in the Christian online community. Now,
he's very much somewhat beloved.
Yeah.
Did you really just say that?
Figure that out. Figure that out.
I will be scroll healing.
Stuff that in your.
Okay, I literally meant to hit the one above that,
okay,
but let's pretend that works. No, because I'm good at kind of like finagling.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But there's been an ongoing question as to whether he's a Christian. It kind of came to a climax. Afterburner climax. He was on a YouTube show last week called, the YouTube channel is Jubilee. They do a lot of like regular people / opinion type content. It's actually good. Like it's good. I've watched some Jubilee. For instance, if you're not familiar with it, there'll be like it'll be like 10 people. There'll be like 10 people standing, and there'll be like a line in the middle of the room, and then it'll be like a question like tacos are the bomb, and then you walk onto the right side of the room.
Like you agree
if it's
or
yes,
not agree.
And then left, and
Okay.
then they'll like interview them on the spot, like, okay, why'd you go here? And then so stuff like that, like this interesting stuff like that. But or they have a series
interesting
called
stuff like tacos.
Huh?
Yeah, interesting stuff like tacos and stuff like that.
Or it'll be like they'll be blindfolded, and it'll be like 9 white people, 1 black person, and then the people who are blindfolded all act white, but then they have to guess who's the black person. Right, like just silly stuff like that.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
Yeah, they're good.
So weird.
And okay, there's a chance I'm mixing Jubilee up with another YouTube channel that does similar content, but Jubilee does content like this.
Okay.
And then they have a series called Surrounded, where it'll be like 1 Democrat versus 50 Republicans,
unapologetically African family first festival.
or it'll be like one. Oh, well, actually, okay, yeah, that's a good example of many. And so, they'll be. Yeah, we're still connected. Are we still connected? Yeah, that was wild. Are we still connected?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I guess we'll know in a second. So Jordan Peterson got invited to do
This Surrounded show.
and the episode was called
Okay.
1 Christian versus 20 Atheists.
Okay.
The name of it got changed almost immediately, and I'm going to
really?
play for you why, because this thing kind of blew up.
Wait, in real time,
Yeah,
something
like
happened.
4 hours after the video was uploaded, they
Yeah.
changed the name of it, and
What?
this clip here is the main reason why.
Okay.
And it's interesting because the entire fascination with the spiritual state of Jordan Peterson it's just interesting to me. I feel like it's worthy of our time. But let me play you the clip that went viral.
Okay.
One of them.
Familiar with their doctrines.
Somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a
'cause I
Christian
won't
or you're
talk to
not.
you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression
private.
I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Now, let me give some slack to the atheist here.
I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
I give all slack because if you genuinely were invited onto something and they're calling it that, and you were like fired up to fight with someone who calls themselves a Christian,
I just feel like he
I
came
get
in.
that.
He came in fully cocked.
I mean, he's a young kid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
And
right,
he's
right,
in
right.
like the circle of college thinking and
Yeah,
lots of
100%.
like back and forth learnedness.
Yes, and I don't know if this is gonna be like a stereotype, but it is not off brand for atheists. I've had more than my share of spicy conversations with atheists that did
Yeah,
not need
that's
to be
true.
spicy.
Turn me on, Chris. Turn me on, Chris.
Yeah, yes.
You like atheists when they're in like an energy level thing?
Yeah.
It could be like, yeah, it doesn't. It's just
There's
like
an excitability to atheists when they're ready to come at you for your beliefs.
I would say the same thing about Christians though.
There's a okay, I'm not saying that isn't
Yeah,
true,
you're
but
right.
I think there is, and I think people
I see what you're
know
saying
what I'm
with that.
talking about.
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
an
okay.
atheist energy that is unique to atheists. Love. That's not a hate statement. I'm just saying it is what it is.
Sure,
It
sure.
is. But also the fact that he's like, on this big YouTube channel, he's standing in front of Jordan Peterson, which is very like a celebrity, you could say.
Right, right.
It's just, and then you're talking about something, that's like life and death.
Mhm.
Like, I get like this around 0 people when I'm having this conversation with people. You know what I'm saying? So let alone in an audience. So I just want to say, like, yes, he was spicy. Yes, I don't think he needed to be at that level. He did make some very good points. He asked great questions, honestly. Thank you. And I won't fry him for the excitability.
That's valid.
If you want a visual treat.
Yeah,
you should-
definitely look up the clip because he's crazed and so
Yes.
is JP.
Now, The question I was wondering after watching this is like, okay, you tell me if I'm crazy. And I think I should say sorry first. Originally, when I heard about this, I did kind of have more of the almost dismissive of like Jordan Peterson with the things he was saying. In the way that everybody was kind of dismissing him, like, yeah, you like, we know, like, you kind of just been saying Christian type things, but like a little bit fraudulent. I don't know the right language to put around that, but I've had a skepticism, is what I should say.
Okay.
Almost cynicism about just his professions of faith, because he has just been really vague.
Some of us were physically vomiting, purging.
And
just joking.
No, please. And
no, that's why I was saying it would be rude to say that, because he's not being clear about his faith.
So right.
We were vomiting over it.
And
yeah, anyways,
I guess. Look, like, I think what I got from watching this entire video, which it actually is good, and actually Jordan Peterson, for the most part, I think did a good job addressing a lot of the atheist just sentiments or whatever.
I mean, he studied a lot of religions.
Yeah,
and he's highly intelligent.
People are dismissive of him, I think, just because of just the silly climate we live in, where you pick a side. It's like we were saying it earlier. DC Marvel.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I was. I don't remember. The last 5. But anyways, just a very tribal society. We have people. If they don't agree with your opinion, suddenly you're stupid. No, he's not stupid, but he has been a little bit ambiguous on this issue of faith. But I wonder if it's a product.
Pause on that, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
You don't need to interrupt.
No, you're not.
That is such a good reminder. If someone disagrees with me, even though I'm highly opinionated and very vocal, and like almost everyone, it doesn't take long to figure out what I like and what I don't like. That's just a really good reminder. I need that.
Okay.
Of like, I'm not going around calling people dunces in my mind. I definitely don't default to that, actually, really. Yeah. But like, maybe with my attitude or the way that I'm speaking to someone, I don't ever want someone to feel that way. Yeah. Is really what, like, especially as a Christian, the quickest way to shut someone down in a conversation, and I'm not even talking about faith, but just like relationally, would just be to make them feel like they're less than, just because they have a different opinion than you. Yeah, that is trickier. It sounds simple, but yeah, in practice that is tricky. I'm not saying that that's easy. No, I'm agreeing with you that's also a helpful reminder. Okay, for me. Sorry, tally ho. No, sorry. Tally ho. I'll actually let's listen to a clip. Should I stop doing that? Let's like you guys are just say clip incoming. 4th grade classroom. Let's listen. Let's turn our attention to the microbiome illustration in your biology textbook. I think this is a good example of what I'm talking about with just like his vagueness, that it's just makes it hard to understand. Like maybe let's just listen to it.
Axiomatic decisions. They're not exactly evidence dependent because he is suffering. There's an arbitrariness in that that's reminiscent of what you claim.
So I'm essentially trying to figure out, do you believe that something can be good, like stance independently, something that can be good? I
don't know what you mean by stance independent. Okay, so you mean independent of people? Independent of people.
We can use that, or more so, I want to be more specific. Something that can be good, right, regardless of any end goal. It's just good.
No, I think good is tied up with goal.
Goal, okay. I completely agree. So, in a sense, this is why...
That's why the religious goal in Christianity is the establishment of the kingdom of heaven on earth. It's goal dependent.
Okay, right.
And so it's in reference to a goal. So, or the goal would be the imitation of Christ.
Someone's goal, right, can be something that doesn't encompass being in congruence with God or being with God.
No, the thing that they want to be in congruence...
Oh, right, okay.
That's right. That's right. That's good. That's great. The thing they want to be in congruence with is fundamentally equivalent to their God.
So what makes someone a Christian and what makes someone not a Christian? What makes like that's what I'm trying to figure out, because
that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to say that's not a good question, in the sense of it's very explain what makes someone not a Christian? Like, in a certain sense, it is simple.
I think in every sense it's actually simple.
Unless
you're getting into their world of like niche.
The reason I would say it's simple and perhaps not simple, it's simple in the sense of like it is not, God did not make it complicated to receive his death on the cross. It's submitting, confessing and submitting to God, to Christ.
Yep.
Receiving Christ's sacrifice is an acknowledgement of your sin before God.
I was just laughing because you're making it sound complicated and you're pausing a lot like it's easy.
Am I?
Maybe it's because I interrupted you.
No. I was trying to think of like a concise way to say it.
Sure. Sorry.
Yeah, like if you receive Christ as Savior, there's an acknowledgement of the need for God to die. Like, why did he have to die? So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the repentance. Anyways. In that sense, you are a Christian. Like, what else am I going to say? You're not? Like, am I going to just discredit your confession?
Yeah.
The reason that I say that, in a sense, it can maybe be complicated.
Will you accept this rose?
You've accepted the rose from Christ. Would be like what the Bible will talk about, like fruits of the Spirit or like evidence of being a Christian.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
There can be senses in which it can be difficult to know. But I think if you're always referencing it, and then in a sense it's not, because if you're always referencing the confession and there's a life that continues to show a trajectory, not necessarily upward, but repentance is like, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of how you struggle. I think you could call someone a Christian pretty uncomplicated. But I guess I understand that there's room for some like,
right.
But
I think that's the beautiful thing is we aren't called to figure out other people's hearts.
I agree.
Like, praise the Lord, I don't need to figure out.
That's why I think it is
if your situation is, like it's so simple in the sense of like, I'm not supposed to go around and go, you're a Christian, you're not.
Exactly.
You're a Christian, you're not.
Yeah.
Like, it would help me in knowing who to maybe spend some conversational time with more,
but actually hold on. What you just said, I think, is why it needs to be simple. Because even in identifying, like, you're kind of talking about like, God is the judge. God knows what's really going on. Well, but as for us, there kind of is a need for it to be easy to identify. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So like doctrinally,
like who do we need to serve and who we need to like talk to through
it'd be like Mormons. If a Mormon agreed with a certain amount of beliefs that are actually Christian, and like that would make you a Christian. But we know Mormonism is ultimately a false gospel. Like there needs to be an easy distinction. Right.
It
needs to be an easy distinction.
Rather than taking the
there needs to be an easy distinction, definitionally.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If everyone is here and everyone is ready, go inside the portal.
Do not move.
Do not move.
Do not move.
Go inside the Christian portal, please. But he continues.
Yeah, well, probably the deepest answer to that is willingness to shoulder your cross voluntarily and trudge uphill regardless of circumstances.
Okay,
so I would say that is completely like, huh? If that's the answer to what is a Christian, like I would just say that just simply isn't the answer. Willingness to trudge uphill. So CrossFitters are all Christian, just by default.
Yeah.
Because they got go muscle.
Orange Theory.
They don't give up.
They're all Christian.
Who?
Orange Theory.
Orange Theory.
That's a CrossFit gym around here.
Done.
Someone can have a God, because in your definition, your first preference, that is God, right? So someone can believe in God, right? And not be a Christian, right?
Yeah, well, there's a statement that Christ makes in the Gospels. He says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven.
So not that they're even saying that they believe in God, but they just...
No, but that's why I'm saying this to you, is that Christ himself points out that there's a difference between people who say they believe and people who act it out. And the fundamental issue is the action rather than the stated belief.
But he also says that, to be saved, right, you must believe God has died for your sins or that God has resurrected in some way. So it's like, I don't necessarily think that we can take from the Bible and say that like acting in accordance with God necessarily means, or acting in accordance with, the principles of God, like for example, sacrifice, like you talk about, means that you are Christian. I don't see how you can get that from that interpretation and then, kind of justify it as the truth.
I don't think that the fact that you sacrifice is sufficient to make you Christian.
So can we repeat once again what you believe makes someone Christian?
There's many things, but one of the most fundamental is that you believe that the cosmos itself is founded on the principle of voluntary self-sacrifice. Best founded. Let me offer you a contrary example. So I could assume that power rules. And so that my assumption would be, if I can make you do it, I win. Right, and I can found a whole society on that, and that happens a lot, by the way. And that's also how societies tend to degenerate. And so that would be a society that was founded on the principle that you get to sacrifice and I don't have to. Right, now the contrary to that would be something like, you give up voluntarily and with courage all the things you need to situate yourself properly in relationship to the future and other people. Right. So then there's a harmony. That's why I talked about harmony earlier.
So you navigate your life, right, in accordance kind of to this principle of self-sacrifice. Can I say it in that way?
Yes, you can definitely say it that way. That's exactly right. And navigate is the right term.
So someone does not have to have any awareness of Christ, of the story of Jesus, but let's say 60% of their actions, right, or more, whatever kind of metric you want to use, are in line with this self-sacrificial.
So the Christian thinkers of the Middle Ages dealt exactly with that problem when they were talking about the pre-Christian philosophers, for example. And they noted the similarity, let's say, between pre-Christian Greek thought and later Christian thought, and presumed that there were moral actors outside the Christian domain.
Right. So is that person Christian, though? Is that person Christian?
Well, to some degree, again, that's a matter of definition, because they wouldn't be proclaiming Christian propositions, but they're acting out the pattern. Right. So imagine that full Christianity would involve a dozen things, and you can imagine someone who knows nothing of Christianity, say, acting out 8 of them.
Right.
So then they'd be 8/12 Christian or something like that.
Christian. Well, but to be like a full Christian, how can someone say I am Christian? Like I am Christian, not 8/12, but Christian.
Well, I hesitate to do that personally, because I think it's the kind of goal that you be very careful about proclaiming. The technical.
But belief is not necessarily, to be mostly Christian, belief is not necessary. 8/12s or, right?
Well, it depends on what you mean by belief. See, because I would say that acting out the pattern is the deepest form of belief. Now, you could add to that what you say. So, maybe in the optimal situation, how you act and what you imagine and what you say, they're the same, right? But you can imagine a hypocrite who says all sorts of wonderful things and does nothing, and you could imagine another person who acts in a very positive manner but proclaims nothing.
So what I'm kind of seeing is like a descriptive, a really early comprehensive but descriptive analysis of human action, human thought, and by which we can characterize people and put people in boxes. But I don't see...
Why in boxes?
Like, when I say in boxes, I mean like I can categorize you based on your actions, not based on necessarily what you say, but based on your actions that you are more so or less so Christian, right? Things like that, right? So we can categorize people as Christian.
Well, I would say more or less voluntarily self-sacrificing.
But that's also what we came to, though, is that someone can be like 60% or 70% Christian based on simply just acting in that way.
Yeah, Richard Dawkins is like that.
I watched that debate.
So I wanted to play that whole long clip. Yeah, what's up? I wanted to play the whole long clip because I actually feel like that's very representative of why I think a lot of people have been confused about his.
I feel like that clip was like, it doesn't sound like a Christian.
Huh?
Doesn't sound like a Christian to me.
It's funny because
he doesn't like only in the sense of he's not feeling like I'm not confidently gonna declare that. He keeps saying things like that.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of talking about how like
it actually sounded like the podcast we did
matters more
2
than
weeks
what
ago.
you believe. And it's like actually it's kind of like what you just said earlier. The fruits of the Spirit will help you kind of like know who's a Christian. I
Right.
agree. Like, and God agrees. Like, he wants to see us act out our faith.
Yes.
But there are people who genuinely believe it and don't act it out.
Well, that's an open. Well, how about this? I would say that James,
Like, because they might be in the
I would say
season.
James would say no, because James would just like, show me your.
Yeah.
James, where it says, "Show me your faith." What's the verse? Let me quote it right.
I
Show
do know
me
which one
your
you're talking
works,
about. That is good.
James. It's Oh yeah. So in James 2:18, but someone will say, "You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds." And he's
Yeah.
making the point of
That is
like,
true. I was just thinking people in different seasons where they might be struggling, but that is very niche.
Well,
That's very particular.
I think what you really mean is like in the sense of where someone just doesn't have the time or capacity. Somebody who's severely handicapped, you could say.
Yeah, that's kind of what
receive
I was
Christ.
thinking of, to be honest.
Because your faith is not what your works are not what justify you. It's
Right.
Christ, right? You can have a circumstance where somebody is not able
That is
to.
a very specific scenario, though.
Yeah, like in other words, the point is, it does prove that the salvation is Christ's doing and not your own.
Yes.
So circumstances like whatever befalls someone that prevents them from doing, quote unquote, not because they need to do this in order to be saved, but out of their response to what God has done for them, right? God is not looking at them and saying, "Look what I did for you. You can't even like cook a meal for your neighbor." Never mind. Right. That would never happen because Jesus paid it all, right? Literally. So when he goes into all of that.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah, no. When he talks about faith in the sense of the deepest meaning of being a Christian is, and then gives off like what I would call maybe, if I'm being generous, the fruits of the Spirit. It makes me wonder, and the funny thing is, it also makes me wonder if this is why he's so afraid to say he's a Christian, is I almost feel like he does rightly understand the weight of what it means to be a Christian, which is good. It should mean something. It should change your life. But he's missing the fact that it is not it is not the doing of these things. It is not embracing and living the weight out. This weight that Christ, carries for us, really. That is not what saves you. And therefore, that's not what makes you a Christian.
Right.
So it's almost like he's taken the staggering reality of living for Christ, and that living for Christ is what makes you a Christian, not Jesus' sacrifice.
Right.
Even though he does say like...
And making a martyr of yourself.
Basically, it does seem like that is kind of the way he views it. It's like the struggle is what makes you a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I originally came into this really...
My actions will speak for itself.
I came into this very cynical because I'll just be honest. I personally did not think that Jordan was a Christian just because he's just so vague but now I wonder if that may still be true, but now I wonder if it's more of a like hesitancy to really identify with Christ because of what that means. And in that sense, I can sympathize with that because there are a lot of people who do the opposite. They profess Christ and have no clue what it means.
Right.
And I would argue that is kind of American Christianity, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like the other,
And he has, like he said in a different clip you were listening to earlier, but he's deeply studied other religions.
Yeah.
And Christianity.
Yeah.
So he does have a sense of like knowing what the full weight. I get
he does seem to understand like what Christianity is.
Very demure.
And he does, even though I do have question marks regarding like how he views scripture sometimes with the mythology thing or whatever. Again, I think this comes from just the way he thinks about reality. And I guess it's just his like approach to thinking. I will say though, it's also kind of made me appreciate, like analyzing this, it's kind of made me appreciate how the gospel isn't complicated. And like, it's funny because like when the Bible talks about our works and stuff will be, burned up, lit on fire. I hear a little, I don't know. I'm not the judge of his soul, but I hear some of that in the way he speaks about our duties. And even the way I feel like he overcomplicates, I think, what it means to be a Christian. Because you could live a life of selfishness or stuff that God wasn't asking for, things with ulterior motives, and you get to heaven and God's like, yeah, come in, and as you come in, like your clothes just burn off, and the sack you had behind you is gone because it caught on fire, right? And like I feel like that's
Sorry for knocking your head out. Here's mine.
I feel like that's the love of God, that he uncomplicated our faith for us by saying, listen, if you get it wrong, I already did it.
Yeah.
Your works might vaporize, but I already did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I wish Jordan or anybody who has this level of like fear almost would realize that, like, and I in my own way, I'm definitely like this too, would realize that is not what saves us. Your response to Christ's death is not to overload yourself with like, I gotta match it.
Right.
It's like you literally
can't. I have
can't.
to pick up my cross and keep climbing the hill. Like that's literally what he answered to her. And she admittedly was confused. She was like, so all these things that you're talking about, how does that make someone who just wants to like suffer not a Christian? Like, because basically anyone who wants to just do these things in the name of what?
Exactly.
That's the part that's missing.
And I feel like he almost gave an acknowledgement to like, yeah, they are like he even said it. They're 8/12 Christian. What is an 8/12 Christian?
I know, right? Like, do we even need to? Yeah, you're getting way too exact with.
Like, if you were 8/12 as a Christian, you're not a Christian.
I mean, yeah.
Like something's missing, right? What's that? What's that other quarter? And it's funny because this almost has a relationship with the podcast we did 2 weeks ago on like lost people who've never heard the gospel. And it does have some overlap with like people who haven't heard in their response to like general revelation, like what the Bible would call the plain things in reality, your conscience, the world, that lets you know like, yeah, this isn't just, we ain't here by mistake. Like the almost the intuition that there is a God. I don't know if I have the mental, I don't know if I've thought deeply enough on it, but I feel like some of what he's saying, I think there's crossover with like reconciling how does God handle those who truly have no clue who he is and like have no opportunity to know, I guess. And the thing is, I would even still say in that case, like it isn't again that their works is what God is looking at. But God, God is good, and that's really all I could fall back on. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got, and that's all I need to have.
I mean, so I'll just call myself out because as you were even kind of like formulating and finishing a thought out for me earlier, I feel like a lot of times in my faith, I have known God for a long time. And so sometimes in my, how do I say this and not just get like too niche about myself? I'm just trying to like be frank, but not be like, this is a Lauren therapy session. I can be really lazy in the sense of like, God's just God. God's here for me. I believe in him. Oh, you don't understand? Like, okay, I'll pray for you. Like, I don't know how to make you believe that. I'll just pray. And like, that's genuine. But I think a lot of times I've just like struggled with an explanation of my faith, or I've struggled with an explanation for other people.
Interesting.
And it's really made me kind of lazy, is really for lack of any better word. But, and also I'll just have like a comfortability with, you know what? You believe some really weird things and I don't agree with them, but you believe in Jesus. You believe he died on the cross for your sins. So I'm like, I'm okay with it. Like, I don't maybe need to get to the bottom of it. And I think that that's not the wrong approach per se, because it's helped me a lot. And I think God has gotten to me to a place in that sense of like, now I don't need to be super mad when I'm talking to like Calvinist or something like that. But it's just like, I don't know. I'm like such an extreme person. So I either take it like all the way this way or all the way that way. And so I've kind of I feel like I need to kind of work my way back now that I'm noticing this about myself again and kind of work in not like, because I almost saw it in him.
Yeah.
Like
I
in
know.
him
I know.
saying that kind of stuff.
I understand the connection.
Like he was, he was saying stuff
because I
like,
agree with you.
He was kind of just like, yeah, it's, you do these things. And it was like, you're being like, not saying he's lazy, because he definitely spent a lot of time in study and he uses his mind for lots of helpful things. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really connecting
that makes perfect sense. I knew exactly what you meant as you were saying it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree, because when I was listening, I did kind of view him as someone.
You grab him, you snap him,
perhaps,
him, and then you get rid of him.
With really strange beliefs, but perhaps is a Christian. Perhaps there's just like immaturity, right? Like somebody uttering strange, like how many new Christians, well, I don't know, literally, how many new Christians have you met who still say a lot of things from their pre-Christian life that are like they're still, like, it's not like the beliefs just disappear.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
And I was even thinking like maybe this is a type of
you carry weirdness in who you are
that I just haven't been exposed to. So maybe
I mean, that's true for him too, for sure.
Huh?
Is that what you're saying?
Huh?
Like for him?
No, I mean like me looking at him, like what does it look like for an intellectual with his credentials and his beliefs?
That's what I'm saying.
To become a Christian.
Yeah.
And God, obviously needs to work on him and work through like how to live more faithfully and speak more clearly about God and not confuse people, right?
Do you remember the question? I'm not sure you do.
Given that he has a platform already, it's not like he's just going to suddenly shift. If he really has become a Christian, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I know he goes to like a Catholic church or something like that.
Yeah, that's why that young guy was getting
So what you're saying makes perfect
nervous
sense. That's exactly right. And I was thinking about it like that, so it's good that you said that.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. God is his judge, but it did give me more compassion for people. He does genuinely seem like he's trying to figure stuff out. Like if you watch this whole video, I think he did a good job. There are some moments where, like, I get why people accuse him of being vague and like shifting with definitions and like kind of avoiding stuff, because he does actually do that sometimes. But I honestly think that is because he is still
very logical,
he's still just trying to like figure some very important questions out, and he almost sees them as monsters. This is pure
conjecture,
speculation, but he almost sees them as monsters, and perhaps there is a like. I wonder if he understands like how good, how loving, how great God is, that these monsters are. You're not the person who has to slay these demons. It's kind of like what I was saying. I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but like obedience, I feel like sometimes shortcuts our need for understanding. If God says it, we don't necessarily need to know the reasons. And I am someone who I'm trying to figure out the reasons, and to the point where I won't even be obedient until I figure it out.
I'm like that at work.
Yeah. But it's like sometimes just being obedient to what God says, believing what God says. It's like you tell a kid like, don't cross the street.
Sure.
When they're, and they're like, why? I've never seen a car on this road before. But like,
right. Yeah.
What happens,
Something
right? So anyways, like sometimes you just got to be obedient, and God will come on the back end maybe, and you'll get the understanding.
Yeah, that's good.
Perhaps that could be, anyways. But
well, and I think, I mean, God is so loving. He might put someone in your life that can answer that question.
100%. You know
what I mean?
100%.
Like even just in
I've got some crazy questions and he's answered them.
Even being married to you, like
oh, thank you.
I'll just, I have something weird that I can't figure out, and I bring it up to you, and you're like, oh, I was just thinking about that 2 weeks ago, and that doesn't happen like all the time, but it's helpful. That's definitely why.
Math whiz.
Don't get caught in the Christian bubble where you're just around like exact sameness, but it is helpful to be friends with other Christians and be people who are studying and trying to grow together.
Surround yourself with people who don't think like you, who love the Lord.
But also just like, yeah, exactly. But also it's just like, in a sense, that's another reason to be involved with friends and homies that are like believers, because they could ask a question that you're like, oh wow, that's like really, really good. Yeah. I mean, my friend Mackenzie in our Bible readings, sometimes she'll ask something and I'm like, I've completely glossed over that section. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's super good. So
yeah, well, that's it. I'm under arrest. That's all I got.
Well, I liked it. Thank you.
Yeah. Love you guys. We'll talk soon. Okay.